today.
Welcome to the November school board.
Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the September school board meeting. I apologize for a moment. I could not remember what month it was. Before we get started, I know a lot of you are here tonight to voice your concerns, opinions for COVID and for the COVID policy. I just wanted to let you know that that will be done at the end of the meeting, but before we have a discussion about it. So you will get your time to talk. You will have 2 minutes per person like last month. But the first part of this board meeting will be student-centered. So please know that, and we are very excited about some students that are here tonight and some staff, and we're here to celebrate them first and foremost. So again, welcome. Council Elizabeth and Grace, would y'all please come forward? Council Elizabeth Shanks and Grace Kilcrease will give our
I go to school here.
our pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies, we're excited you're here tonight, and we're going to give each of you a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in Springdale, and then we'll just ask you a few questions. Who wants to go first?
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Like Miss Michelle said, I'm Counts Shanks, and I'm currently a senior at HAR-BER High School. I have been very fortunate to grow up in the Springdale public school system. Now, as I'm emerging in my senior year here at HAR-BER, I am very fortunate to see myself in various positions. I'm currently president of our senior class council. I'm one of the co-editors of our yearbook. I hold officer positions in HOSA, DECA, National Honor Society, and I'm an active member of our student council. But none of these opportunities would be near available without my time and tenure during the Springdale schools. I took a very traditional path in this school district. Growing up, I went to Hunt Elementary when I was 5 years old, and I have taken the traditional feeder school system through Hunt. Following that, I attended Hellstern Middle School before Central Junior High. And since then, I have seen the pivotal moments that certain educators and the community of the Springdale schools have provided me with the opportunities. We all can agree that middle school and junior high are some of the most crucial years of a student's life. And for me, my entire 7th grade year was thrown into an upheaval when my dad was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disease and told that he had to have a full liver transplant to save his life. All of this happened right on my 13th birthday, and I had no idea whether or not my dad would make it to my high school graduation. My dad was fortunately a lucky case and did receive a liver transplant after very little time waiting, and is now here, and I can guarantee that he is able to watch online tonight, and he will be able to do all these last senior year things with me. But I would not have been okay no matter what happened with my dad in that period of waiting if it wasn't for the administration and the teachers and community I had at Hellstern. Dr. Lofton immediately worked with me so often when I had to miss when my family had different issues going on with my dad during his transplant waiting process. But he also helped me figure out how to fuel my desire to change and my stress into advocacy. I was very fortunate that I have now been able to establish a 501c3 called Give Organs, Give Life, which is focused on registering as many organ donors as possible, educating our communities on organ donation and tissue transplantation, and also able to focus on serving and supporting those in the transplantation community. But I would not have had a start without speaking to the Hellstern Middle School faculty at one of their meetings, because that gave me a voice and a comfortable environment to push myself to know that I could make that change in our community that I want to see. Following my time at Hellstern and Central, I moved up to HAR-BER, and I knew immediately that I wanted to continue making a change, continue my involvement, and I threw myself into doing as many clubs as possible. I was extremely active, finding a hard time keeping my schedule open enough to add one more thing onto it. And as time went on, junior year ended up having the greatest impact on my life. I was a blended learner last year due to my dad being immune compromised. I was only in school on Tuesday and Thursday, and to say I benefited and was my education was changed as a blended learner in the best way would be an understatement. I was very fortunate to have different teachers who would work with me to make sure that I was learning anything that I could in class, but also I was able to self-pace properly at home. I prepared myself for college. I saw different growth in that, but I also saw various opportunities arise from that. I took AP United States History last year, and Miss Bernadette completely changed my course of my education. I learned countless things in U.S. history. The idea of an AP class was completely shifted for me, and I was able to fuel my interest of U.S. history and politics in the best way possible. With that, I knew when the opportunity to attend Arkansas Girls State rolled around that February that it was something I had to capitalize on. HAR-BER is very fortunate in that we are a self-nominated school when it comes to attending Girls and Boys State. And so when it was, our final selections were chosen, I was in a meeting with about 7 other girls from HAR-BER that would be attending Girls State with me. And Mr. Klaus, the counselor over the program, said, we have not been extremely successful at Girls State in the past at HAR-BER High School. At Boys State, we've had a governor. We have had one boy go to Boys Nation, but our girls just don't seem to do as much at Girls State. And immediately then I said, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm ready to make a difference. And as the time came up, I've known several young women and successful women who have attended Girls State, but I did not know of one who went to Girls Nation. I know alumni who work on Capitol Hill, but none of them had gone to Girls Nation that I had known. And as time went on, and about 3 weeks before the opportunity to attend Girls State, our selection process for Girls Nation arose, and we had to write a piece of legislation and an essay on why we would like to attend. I was very fortunate that I've been able to work on legislation that passed the House and Senate unanimously during my freshman year. And with that, I took my work and advocacy from organ donation in our state capitol and shifted it to a mock government experience with Girls State. And I was able to create a piece of legislation that targets high schools and the legislator, getting them approved to register organ donation. The opportunities to register organ donors in our high school classes. It's already a state law that we are required to educate our students on organ donation in health classes, so it would have expanded that as well. I was very fortunate that that sample piece of legislation received me an interview with the Girls State panel to attend Girls Nation. And I had my interview. It was all over Zoom, and by the time I got done with it, I came downstairs to my mom and said, well, this is the hardest interview of my entire life. We can just go ahead and cross that out. And which was quite a surprise for my parents. I have grown up spending my teenage years in the Miss Arkansas Outstanding Teen organization, where I've spent my time in countless interview lessons and interviewing with various panels across our state. And so when time rolled around to the end of our Girls State program, I was introduced as Arkansas's next Girls Nation senator. And there are only 2 from each state selected, a very mock experience for our United States government. And so when the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and experience this in person arose, I was just beyond words. With that, I immediately had to turn around and write another piece of legislation. And I was able to work with the other senator from Fayetteville. We were able to meet in person, and in about 2 hours, we had drafted a piece of legislation that focuses on 17-year-olds who will be 18 during the election, but they're 17 during the primary season. And so it would allow and expand the voting access to them where they're able to vote in the primary. 17 states already have this enacted, and it was something that we knew we wanted to capitalize on because the states that have enacted it are such a wide variety, making it a bipartisan issue. So seeing this change, we went into Girls Nation with this experience. We were absolutely terrified to present a bill as we had not been able to do that at Girls State. We were fortunate when we arrived to learn that our bill was the first step on the document, which means it was the piece of legislation that the Girls Nation staff wanted the 100 senators to view, to debate on, to discuss, because it was one of the most well-written pieces of legislation that they could see going to our U.S. Congress. And so with that, I was immediately honored, and I was up on my high horse going into Girls Nation from that experience alone. And pretty quickly, I realized politics on a firsthand experience, aside from watching the West Wing TV show, and I was able to see that some of the negative sides that we all commonly see in our media. And seeing that in a firsthand experience, but also shifting to see that there are 99 other girls with me there who wanted to change that stigma, who wanted to make a difference for our world, completely changed the course of my life. I went into that week thinking that I would go into public policy and run for office like many of you, or like you all one day. And I left that experience knowing that I want to advocate for different pieces of legislation, for different issues. And this is all as a result of my time at HAR-BER High School preparing me for this opportunity. I am very fortunate that now at the conclusion of my program, I have made 99 best friends across our country, but I've also been able to grow and network and learn so much about our civic engagement process and know that there is a brighter change in our future. Now, following my time at Girls Nation, I have decided that I will be majoring next year in public relations or public policy, which will give me an opportunity to create and cultivate that difference in the world that we need to see. And so with that, it's all because of my time at Girls Nation, which is a direct result from my time in the Springdale public school system. So thank you all very much. So.
Board, do any of you have any questions for Council Elizabeth before we?
I don't know how you.
Oh my goodness.
That was amazing. So,
What school are you, where are you going to school?
Next year is undecided at the moment. It's kind of killing my parents that Arkansas is still up there, but it's not a definitive right now. I have applied to various SEC schools and am also applying to SMU as well. So we will see and come around December most likely.
Awesome.
So.
Council, will you introduce your mom, please?
Yes, ma'am. And here's my mom back here. She's also Counts Shanks, so we're a family name, but yes, ma'am. So.
Well, very proud of you and excited that you got to do Girls Nation. I know you served the state of Arkansas and Springdale well. You were a great ambassador, and I know wherever you end up, we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Counts. And now we have Grace. And Grace and Counts both have gone to school together essentially since kindergarten, and they have grown up together with both my daughter and Clinton, Mr. Bell's daughter. So we're very proud of both of them. And Grace has had an incredible experience as well that we can't wait to hear about.
Yes, thank you for having me here today. My name is Grace Kilcrease, and I'm a senior at Don Tyson School of Innovation. I'm doing the virtual program this year. I started to do the virtual program last year due to the COVID pandemic. The cases were very high, and I felt more comfortable staying at home and doing the online program. Right off the bat, I noticed that online school is much different than in-person school. Time management is very big, and I feel more prepared going into college. And I'm really grateful for Springdale Schools offering a virtual program because I know there's a lot of other student athletes that can't get out at school at 3 o'clock, and there's not that much daylight in the day, and I'm able to practice more and become the best player I can be. I have been involved in Springdale schools my whole life. I went to Hunt Elementary, Hellstern Middle School, Central, and I went to HAR-BER my sophomore year of high school. I've been a member of the HAR-BER High School golf team since my freshman year at Central, and it's definitely been a fun experience. I love my teammates, and it's just been so fun. We're hoping to bring home another title this year at our state meet. Speaking about golf, I guess, I started playing golf about 3.5 years ago, and I did gymnastics and cross country before that. I've worked really hard over the past 3.5 years, and I've been blessed with so many opportunities. Speaking of, this summer, I qualified for the USGA Girls Junior Championship in Bethesda, Maryland, and I got to play a very prestigious course, Columbia Country Club, with featuring, I think it was over 150 girls from across the nation were there. I finished 21st in the stroke play portion and advancing to the match play, and I was the only girl from Arkansas there. Thank you. I also had the opportunity to compete in some other national events. The American Junior Golf Association is the biggest junior golf association in the United States. This year I've won 2 AJGA events. The first one I had was at Buffalo Ridge Golf Course in Branson, Missouri, shooting 9 under par for 3 days. And then I recently just won my second AJGA at the Highlands Golf Course in Bella Vista, Arkansas, shooting 4 under for 3 days. And I'm very blessed to compete in these national tournaments to get my game ready before I head to the University of Tulsa to pursue my golf and academic career. I'm very blessed to be here, and I thank Springdale Schools for everything they do for us. So thank you.
Board, do you have any questions for Grace? Other than I think we all should go out to the golf course and watch her play. I've watched you over the last couple of years, and watching you grow and become the player that you're still becoming is amazing. And to watch and follow you during your matches, especially when you were in Maryland, and cheering you on from the computer and screaming to the other room, "Oh my gosh, John, she's," And so it's just exciting. And it's exciting to see your confidence grow and to see you on the course. You just, everybody better watch out. And we all better get your autograph now, because one day we're going to say we knew her when. So, any other questions? If you want to introduce your parents, please.
Yes, my parents are John Kilcrease and Emily Kilcrease.
Pretty exciting. Okay, after those 2 incredible young women, we will start our meeting. And board, you've had the agenda for a while. Do I have any changes or?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I have a motion by Mr. Hutchinson.
Second.
A second by Mrs. Creek to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You've also had the consent agenda. Does anything need to be pulled out or discussed?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
A motion by Mr. Hutchinson.
Second.
A second by Mr. Bell to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Dr. Cleveland.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cook. I'd like to ask Coach Stellick, our athletic director, to come forward. He's going to introduce an amazing team from Springdale High School. And Coach Wheeler, and we all, I think during graduation, saw this team having a big time.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd like for Coach Stellick to introduce our head coach and this team.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Cleveland, Leanne. Please welcome the state champion soccer team from Springdale, the Springdale Bulldogs, and Coach Beeler. Come on up here, man.
Okay, thank you guys for having us here tonight. I'd like to first start with the motion to not have to follow the girl from HAR-BER and Grace from SOI. I've followed her on the golf course before, and I don't want to do that either, so. But thank you guys for having us. Since winning the state championship in May, I've really, we've received a lot of congratulations and pats on the back, and I've just been trying to thank everybody that played a role. When we had our pep rally at school, we got our rings, I really wanted the teachers to know, and the counselors, the principals, how important they are in this process. You guys work hard to make sure that we can play, make sure that we have what we need. And last year, for sure, not every state got to play, and we did. And we were a spring sport in 2020 that had their season canceled, and that was really hard on the kids. And so, I want to thank you guys for the hard work that you did to keep it safe, but also to give these guys an opportunity to do what they love. We had a great year last year. They won their third conference championship in a row. That would be the 8th for the program, but minus that 2020 season that we didn't get to complete, that's 3 in a row for us. And then they won their 4th state title for the program and back-to-back state titles. And I couldn't be more proud of them. You guys know that last year was difficult. It was hard to keep kids connected. And, these athletics and these programs that kids cling on to, it kept them engaged, it kept them going to school, it kept them signing on virtually, whatever it took, because they wanted to be successful in the classroom, yes, but they wanted to be able to represent their school on the field. And so thank you guys for your hard work in doing that.
Could you introduce the team, please?
Yes, I'll do my best. All right,
Let
so
them
this is,
introduce themselves.
we have a lot of nicknames, but I'm gonna go with the given names here.
Probably wise.
So this is Jesus. This is Johnny Alcala. Johnny Alcala was a freshman last year and started for us in the state championship game. You were at George, correct? Yep. This is Jorge. That's Marco. That's Renee. Renee was a captain for us last year. He scored the first goal in the state championship game, and if you look closely at his hand, he has 2 rings on it.
Nice.
That's Johnny, and we have 2 Israels. Israel Torres and Israel De Leon. Behind them is Mike. We have Alan, Edwin, Cesar, and for those of you that were watching the semifinal against Heritage at the graduation, Cesar's our goalkeeper who was in there. Awesome. He stepped in when we had an injury to our other goalkeeper in a huge game, the HAR-BER game, lots of emotion, didn't miss a beat, and it was amazing. So he did a great job. There's Diego right there. Diego also scored a goal for us in the state championship game. There's Jake Rankin. He's been our assistant coach and coached our JV for, 8? 9. I never give him credit. Okay. But he's been fantastic and super important to all our success. You guys know if you want to grow a plant strong, you water the roots, right? Not the leaves. So he's been doing that work for us for 8 years, and he's done an amazing job. So when they get to me, they know what they're doing. He has them, ready to go, and so that's huge for us. And then this is Greg McElroy. He's been a volunteer assistant for us for about 5 years now. Yep, this will be 6 years. And, what can you say? I mean, he's there every day for practice. He's a volunteer. He doesn't get paid for it. He just loves to help our kids and our community, and we're super grateful to have him.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank
the
you.
rings are amazing.
It was certainly a bright spot and a long day.
Very long way.
And also for the year.
Yeah,
We
we're
were all
happy.
huddled around a laptop. Was it a laptop?
It was
iPad. In
And they kept saying, it's time to go, it's time to go, and we're like, no, we have to.
in our little room we hung out in at graduation, at Bud Walton screaming and yelling and watching y'all play. So
It was
fun.
exciting.
Yep, it was fun.
Thank you.
Great job.
Coach Hobbs, would you join me down here, please? Back in, I believe it was early to mid-May, something like that, our previous head coach just had to take another job. And Dr. Cleveland and I kind of knew right away what we wanted to do. It didn't take much more than like a second or two to think about what we would do as an interim coach. because of the timing and stuff. So we got hold of Coach Hobbs and asked him to be our interim head coach. So I've had a chance now since late May to watch him manage his staff, which is a challenge. Think about what Dr. Cleveland's got to do every day, manage a staff. That's been really good. 5-star management right there. Then I've watched him engage and connect kids. We've got a few more kids out than in the past. As an athletic director and as a superintendent and as a board, we want kids connected and engaged. We've done that quite well. And then I've watched our attendance at games and our energy at games. We have more energy at our games. We have more alums at our games. We have more fans at our games. And as an AD, and my bottom line, I like that. And the drive that I saw Friday night, less than 2 minutes, no timeouts. We go from about the 30-yard line to about the 20-yard line, cool, calm, easy. We bring the field goal team out. They're set up in position. There's no hurry, scurry. They're just like, okay, snap it, hold it, kick it. Not quite what we wanted. But we saw great coaching right there. We saw execution. There was a plan. You had practice that. And we noticed that. And so board tonight, Dr. Cleveland, I would recommend that we take this tag off of Coach Hobbs where it says interim head coach and make Coach Hobbs our head football coach at Springdale High School.
I agree.
Do I need to say anything, Dr. Cleveland?
Only if you want to, Coach Hobbs.
No, I just want to thank you, Dr. Cleveland, and your administration. Thank you, Coach Stellick, Mr. Jones, Springdale School District Administration. Thank you to the school board. Being from Springdale and growing up watching the Bulldogs play, that was always my dream to play for Springdale. Watching my older brother play for them, and then given the opportunity to play for Springdale and wear that jersey, Springdale Bulldogs, across my chest, really meant something to me. And I always knew that I wanted to come back and be the head football coach at Springdale. 6 years ago, I was fortunate enough to come back as a defensive coordinator, and now I get the opportunity to live out my dream as far as being the head coach and to pass down, the things that I learned as a player and as a coach about toughness, about discipline, about accountability, integrity, character, and that's the important lessons that I want to make sure that I get across to our players. Wins and losses are great, and I want to win more than anybody, but I think in coaching, if all you're concerned about is wins, then you're missing the big picture. Because I want to make sure our kids are doing the right thing. They're doing the little things, and what we always talk about, when you do the little things, that's when big things will happen. And I think that I want them to be better people and be a positive impact for being in our program, and one day be, a good citizen, a better husband, a better father, brother, son. So that's what I'm hoping to get across to our players. And I think if we have that type of mentality, and if they try to do that, then those wins will come as we go on. But thank you. Really honored, humbled, and appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
I just want to know if you can do the woof woof.
The woof woof?
Can you do that?
Woof woof.
I'll tell you, Ms. Cook, he's one of the best people I know. He's just great. Congratulations, Coach Hobbs.
The Bulldogs are in good hands.
They are. They're in great hands. Okay.
Mr. Fontenopoulos?
Hi, Ms. Cook. High school board. Hi, Dr. Cleveland. Hi, Ms. Smalling. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our AP success that we had this last year, if we can move those slides along. And right off the bat, I think if we go to the next slide, you can see what I'm going to be seeing. There you go. Just some of the highlights of what we had, 27 different advanced placement subjects in 2020. I think there's up to 32 now. We offer more than that, but we just, this was the ones that we actually gave a test on. There was a couple of tests that we took too that were without an instructor, just students just wanting to take the test. And 2 of those were 5s. So yeah, that's right. A total of almost 2,000 exams were administered. 839 exams were scored a 3 or higher. Of course, the scoring goes 1 is the lowest score that you can earn, 5 being the highest, 3 being college credit. Here in the state of Arkansas, according to our governor, 2017, he set that in motion with Arkansas Department of Higher Education. He basically asked all Arkansas state-funded colleges to come together with that 3, 4, or 5. You're going to get college credit for whatever it is that you just took the test on and scored that. So you got kids, they're going to go to the University of Arkansas, for instance. Some of y'all might have some children at the University of Arkansas. Whatever a 3-hour course is worth to you, about $1,050, something like that. Every time you see that 3 or higher, that's what you're seeing. That's money being saved by moms and dads out there. About almost 150 scored a 5, so you might start seeing those high five signs out there floating around in people's yards. Springdale Public Schools had 104 AP Scholars. An AP Scholar is a student that has had 3 AP classes and has scored a 3 in all 3 of them. 39 AP Scholars with honors is when they've taken at least 4, and they've scored a 3.25 average. And then finally, 61 AP Scholars with distinctions. This is students who have taken at least 5, if not more, AP classes and scored 3.5 on an average. So again, a lot of good things to talk about there for this last year. If we go to the next slide, you'll see some celebration going on here at HAR-BER and the Don Tyson School of Innovation. And this is just those moments of recognition, these parents being asked to come in, and certificates being handed out, some signs being handed out. And I believe October the 1st, Springdale High School is going to be kind of unique in the fact that they're going to hand out their signs at halftime. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that. So yeah, so all of our big schools are celebrating these students and getting them into the limelight and letting other kids see too what it means to be an academic and a scholar. And I think that's really fun. Next slide, you'll see more of that. You can see to the left there, I believe that's Mr. Stewart's AP US History class. He usually garners some of a big load of 5s. One more slide, I think. You can see the young man holding the 2 there. That's the fellow that we're going to see here in just a second. He is Briley Thomas. We got an interview with him, and we got a video of him, and so we'll check that out here in just a second. One more slide, and ideas from Briley Thomas, an AP Scholar with distinction. I think if you hover over that, you'll see a video there. And this is about 2 minutes. Hi, Bradley. So tell us, how many AP, well, let's just list them. What were your AP classes that you took last year, and what were your scores in them?
Last year I took AP Computer Science Principles, AP Physics C Mechanics, AP European History, AP US History, and AP Calculus AB. I made a score of 5 in 4 of those with a 3 in AP Physics C Mechanics.
Okay, great. So if you were going to maybe give a suggestion to a student in the future that's going to take multiple AP classes, and they too are looking to be successful like you were, what kind of advice would you give that student?
I would suggest them to focus on concepts like time management and integrity. You want to make sure that you're looking out for your own learning and making sure that you're working outside of class to make sure that you're understanding all the material properly and absorbing it all, whether that means asking your teachers or other concepts like that, and also making sure that you're using your time wisely in school to help clear out any homework that you need to do.
Awesome, that's a good job. So what does the future hold for Briley? Where might you wind up after you graduate from HAR-BER High School?
My dream college right now is going to be Rice University in Houston, but there's a good chance I'll end up attending the University of Arkansas anyways, with probably studying in business or economics, and that's kind of what I want to do.
Okay, good. Has advanced placement classes helped you kind of solidify those thoughts with Rice or the University of Arkansas and business?
They've been very helpful in helping me to kind of explore college-related fields and courses that I may be interested in. Like, I learned that I don't really want to do physics in college, but in other classes like history and biology, I learned that I'm really interested in those. And
Awesome.
so that's what's kind of encouraged me to go on the field that I've wanted to.
Awesome. What's been your favorite AP class so far?
So far, it's been AP US History with Mr. Stewart here at HAR-BER. I like seeing the ideas of history and how they connect with one another. And I think that they're really intriguing to see how our country has developed over time and how it's led to kind of the modern political climate of today.
Well, Briley, I'm going to tell you right now, Springdale Public Schools is proud of you, and we just wish you the best in all things that you do. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's Briley. He's neat. And like he said, he would like to go to Rice University, but he's probably going to wind up at the University of Arkansas, business major. And he came to that conclusion through an AP US history class, which again kind of bespeaks a little bit about AP classes. They might just spark something in your mind, kind of like an IB moment, kind of like taking concurrent credit. It might send you on a new journey in your path of thinking and dreaming. So, and it's proof positive too that this is the Dale. This isn't a Ville, this is the Dale. Everybody's got a Ville, we got the Dale, and there's always something awesome going on at the Dale. Love it. Do you guys have any questions for me about AP and what we're doing?
I have a question.
Okay.
My question, can we go back to the slide that has some of the stats on it? Yes. Okay, if we look at that, do we feel like we did better or need some improvement because of COVID?
So I think in general, we're.
I mean, is it the same as it would have been a normal year, or did we see any bumps because of blended COVID, whatever?
We took more exams. We took more exams than we did the year before.
Okay.
The year before, the score average was better. And I think that probably goes back onto the College Board, and I'm going to be frank with you. I think the College Board was doing something new. I think the whole world was doing something new. And so when students were asked to go home in the spring of 2020, is that right? Where am I at on my mind? Yes. And so when they were asked to go home and get in front of their computers, I think maybe the College Board, I don't want to say the word erred, but they're scoring. And I'm a reader for world history, so I know firsthand what's being accepted as evidence, as fill in the blank. Maybe they were a little generous, and maybe you saw some scores that were, maybe that was a good year to make a 5. This last year, everybody started off on the same foot in the sense of it was chaos, and they embraced the chaos. Are you going to be meeting? Are you going to be virtual? Are you going to be part-time, half-time, full-time? And again, the College Board didn't know what you were doing as a school board, as a state, other than you're just all doing it.
Right.
So we're going to grade this way. And it went back to normal, and maybe the scores weren't what you would like to have had. And we can even actually talk about that next month when we talk about our National Merit semifinalists as well. I think you're going to see something there similar. Yep. That it? School board, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. That's rings.
I know.
Hello, I am so excited to be here today to share with you what has been happening at Rollins Elementary School.
It's underneath.
Uh-oh.
It's underneath.
Oh, you're great.
Is this one of your rings?
It has been so fun to open this school and to see the children and the families and just coming together from different schools, joining into one brand new school and creating our mission and our vision, which is my first slide. This is still a work in progress because we need our children and our parents and community members to still be a part of it and help us build our mission and our vision. But for right now, our mission is that we are cultivating authentic learning experiences so all trailblazers discover the true joy of learning and ensure student academic achievement. Our vision is that we are a community of learners and at Rollins Elementary, time management, understanding themselves as learners, being task committed. Those are some of the qualities, we call those learner qualities or learner's dispositions. And so we've been teaching our children about their learner qualities, and we also call it their brain powers, their learning powers. So that's some of the work that we've been doing. If you'll switch to the next slide. Okay, I tried to cram as many pictures as I could into this slide, but I'm going to start up here on the left-hand side with the learning powers. So it begins with curiosity and wondering and persevering, and we give kids concrete examples of what that looks like. So every morning we have a school-wide Zoom meeting where we share our learning powers and successes. And now I'm going to go to the middle. We created this giant puzzle our first day together, and our starting year is 2021, and each person had a piece of the puzzle, and we were all spread out throughout the whole cafeteria. And as we told the story of our school from groundbreaking to ground opening, whoever had that piece of the puzzle came up and put it on the big slide that we had up front. We had a big screen up front. So as we were going, the kids were like, what is it? What is it? And we were like, we don't know. And so we got up to the end. We had our SROs there. We had our cafeteria staff, our custodial staff. We had maintenance. We just had people there because everybody played a part in building this school. Well, in the end, we had one piece missing, and it was the center. It was the heart. And we were like, what is it? What group have we not talked about yet? And we had children go, it's us. And so we had a child run down to the front and stick that last puzzle piece in. And so this big puzzle piece that will now hang in our school. It's getting framed right now. And it shares our excitement about being together. If you'll go to the top, that's when we first got to go in the building. We were just nuts and so excited to go in together. Off to the right, you'll see our community has totally embraced us. Our fire department, police department, city administration, the patrons, they rallied around us in every way, and they've just been joining in and celebrating us. They had a school supply drive that was like, I couldn't believe it. They had a competition, and whoever lost had to buy the other's lunch. So the fire department, police department, city, the paramedics, they all got together, and they raised 26,454 items. Of course, they broke the pieces apart, and every item was counted, like an eraser was one. I mean, they were really, really competitive about it. But what was great about it is our children felt the love, and they felt the city of Tawnytown has just embraced us. So you'll see on the far right, you've got a little hat game going on there. We had a big picnic for our back-to-school event, and we just spread out in lawn chairs and had hot dogs, and we had a lot of games, and we had a lot of community members come out, set up tables, and just do games and activities, and we had limitless snow cones and fun like that. Around the outsides of it, you'll see kids. We have kids at their desks, and you'll see over here we've got two little girls. They had learned how to, I think they were sharing about multisyllable words, and they were creating a flip grid to show their demonstration of their mastery of multisyllable words. And up on the right-hand side, you've got some kids getting together, and they're sharing their they're doing a social emotional lesson on involving everyone and learning about what a great opportunity is to learn about everybody's talents and how everybody's talents can contribute to the whole. And then, of course, you'll see the kids on the couch. That is one of the very popular places to read and learn. And we're teaching the children that reading and learning happens anywhere, any place, and at any time. So up across in the top, you'll see some science of reading going on when the children are learning about how to decode multisyllable words. But overall, it has been a tremendous experience. I just love every single day, love coming to school, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to be the principal of this school. Any questions?
How's it going with the construction still going on?
It's really fine. They're in the other end of the building. And so Flint Co. has been fantastic. They just always very cautious about when they're hammering and things like that. They usually do anything loud after hours, and it's just moving right along. I think later on you'll see some more pictures about what's happening out there, but Flint Co. brought us breakfast. They just embraced us as well, and we really don't hear them. I think the thing that's the favorite thing I've noticed as I've walked through the halls is you can feel the learning happening. You can feel it, and that's exciting. So. Thank you. Can't wait for our grand opening when we get out there. Girl. Thank you.
Hello. Members of the board, Dr. Cleveland, I'd like to give you just a quick update on the Treehouse Pantry tonight. And if you can go to that next slide. Thanks to Mr. Jeremy White and his awesome staff, we have the outside of the buildings coming along. I put a little logo on there to kind of show you what it might look like in the future. And then also the inside of the building. If you want to go to that next slide, please. This is that first entryway when you walk in is that top left picture. This is when you would walk in, there would be a slider window there with the logo. And then you can kind of see what that room looks like. And then there's an office. That next picture on the bottom left, that's just the kind of the distribution area. And then also that's another picture of the two offices. And then that back room would be like McKinney-Vento, where we'd serve homeless families. And then also the Samaritan Feet will be back there, and just various supplies. And Jeremy has been so kind to allow us to store about 18 pallets of community donations that we have at the warehouse right now that are ready to be shipped over to the Treehouse Pantry and then shipped out to kids and families. So that'll be wonderful. And then the next slide, just want to go over community partnerships equals community success. That's our vision at the Treehouse Pantry, because we understand without community partnerships, we'll just be an empty building with no donations there. And then also our mission is to remove barriers to a student's academic and social success. And so you can see all of those things there that we'll be distributing from the Treehouse Pantry, which would be from food to essential clothing to hygiene and school supplies. There'll be a Foot Locker there as well. Great partnership with Samaritan Feet. I'll talk about partnerships a lot. And then just any general donation in the district, and then wraparound services. We actually have a partnership and have started conversations with Community Clinic for our kids' Medicaid dental applications there as well, so that it'd be a really nice place for just kind of a one-stop shop for our families that have basic needs. And then that last slide this is just a tentative plan for Treehouse Pantry dedication. Had a really great meeting with Tyson Food representatives, and this is just kind of a general guideline of what we'd like to do on the 4th. From 11 to 12:30, we would have a Tyson Food representative.
September 4th?
Oh, it says September. It means October. That's a typo. I apologize. Yeah, we already had it. Woohoo! October, that's a typo. So it should be October the 4th from 11 to 12:30. And the funny thing is, I read through that like 6 times and I still missed that. So October the 4th, Tyson Foods, Northwest Arkansas Food Bank representatives will be speaking. Education Foundation representative, and then of course Dr. Cleveland will speak. We'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and then right after that we'd like to do a little learning tour of where the distribution area will have easels with just kind of what goes on in that area, and then back around the corner what goes on with McKinney-Vento and how we serve families that are experiencing homelessness. And then next to that it'd be Samaritan Feet, and then kind of walk back around to where we'll have the cold storage of food, and then also the dry goods on the other distribution part. And then once we do that, we'll have a little cookout where you can eat there as well. We'll invite our SROs, our nurses, our counselors, our social workers, just their entire team. And then from 12:30 to 2, anyone who would like to participate can do that, but we'll have a scheduled food drive on that day, and Tyson Foods is going to provide a truck, a refrigerated truck for us to pull donated, they call it donated protein, off of that truck and give it out to families on that day. So yes, it's October 4th, not September 4th. So, any questions about that?
Will you be sending out invitations?
Yes, there'll be more details to come, and I'll just tell you this, from a kid that grew up in Bearville, Arkansas in extreme poverty, I mean, I heard you say earlier that it's just a joy to come to work every day. Dr. Thompson said that. It's a joy to come to work every day, and I want you to know, it's a joy for me to come to work every day, and to see this vision come into life to serve students and families in Springdale. It's a really, it's a great honor and a privilege to do that. So
It's community
yes.
openness.
Yes. So now in that community drive-through food distribution, we'll actually schedule those. What we thought about doing is have each of our social workers and counselors identify 5 families that could come through on that day, if they can come through on that day, and then we'd have about 150 families come through on that specific day. Yes.
Yeah,
but it's,
I guess it's for anybody in the community.
yes.
Uses,
It's mainly geared towards students.
we'll focus on our,
Yes.
on our students. but
Yes.
It is obviously open.
Yeah, our main goal at this food center would be to support families who have students in the Springdale school system. Yes. So any questions? Okay, thank you. Have a great.
Okay. Board, I know that over the last 8 weeks and even prior to the 8 weeks, there's been an effort to try to make sure that we focus on having students attend school, having staff attend school every day. Quarantining has been identified not only in our district but across the state as a problem. When we review our statistics regarding quarantine, our numbers of positives are relatively low compared to the number of students we quarantine, even though our staff does an amazing job trying to make sure that we limit contact, probable contacts. So I wrote a letter to the governor dated September 9th, 2021, identifying some of our data with a request to try to, really to ask that for folks who would like to send their children to school with a face covering, for them to not have to quarantine. Because we went through last month the quarantining rules, and they're pretty much labor intensive. And I can do those pretty quickly right now. If you're vaccinated, if you're 12 and above and you're vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine if you're identified as a close contact. That's easy to do. If you've had COVID within the last 90 days and have immunity and you identify that, you don't have to quarantine. The third option is if you are masked, but you have to be in a group where they're all masked. The idea that you came to last month was that the protections for 8th grade and up, you had 2 options. 7th grade and down, you only have 1 since they're too young. So I can read the letter to you, but I know you've all read it. But for the group, my summary to the governor, I'll just read the small part. The potential solution to over-quarantining is to modify the current quarantine guidelines that require both the exposed and infected individual to be masked in order to prevent the quarantine of the exposed individual. Allowing students and staff who are masked to remain in school if exposed, regardless of whether the infected person was masked, is an option that I ask you to consider. This quarantining modification would remove the immense pressure on school boards to implement mask mandates in divided communities. Many school boards implemented mask policies solely as a way to limit quarantines, knowing that the spread of COVID-19 in schools has been. I have to report to you that I did communicate with the governor by phone and by text, and he was very open to reviewing our data. In fact, even had a conversation with Dr. Jose Romero last Friday, and he is willing to explore opportunities with us in the future. So they're going to review our data this next week. Ms. Kendra Clay will be in touch with them as well, and hopefully as we move forward, there will be a light at the end of this Ms. Tom. So, we'll see. Have any questions in regard to the letter?
Thank you for writing it.
Thank you, appreciate it. It was a team effort. I have to tell you, we have an amazing team, and they're just the name. All I can say. I can't take all the credit for sure.
Oh, we maybe want to.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes.
Well, good evening, Board. I'm going to continue the celebrations and give you an update on, just a brief update on the revision of our big audacious goals. After our district went through the revision of our mission and our vision, we realized that we needed to revisit our big audacious goals to make sure they still aligned with the work that we were trying to accomplish in our school system. And we realized that we needed to revise them, and so we pulled together a guiding coalition of teachers, parents, students, community members. They all came together. We had several dozens of meetings, getting feedback and finding out what they wanted out of our school system. So we're super proud of the work that we were able to accomplish. So before we began this process, we brought together a guiding coalition of principals, and we talked about what big audacious goals were and what were some of the characteristics of big audacious goals. And they decided that we needed to be visionary. We know that these goals are very, very high. They're very hard to obtain, but it gives us something to strive for, and it gives us something to align our work in our school buildings to. We wanted them to be measurable. We wanted to know whether or not we were making progress towards meeting our goals. And we wanted our schools, any school in our district from pre-K all the way up through 12th grade, to be able to align their school goals to what our district goals were. And we wanted them to be student-centered. We had noticed in previous years that some of our goals were what the adults in the building were going to do, and really what we need to be measuring is if the adults are doing something in the building, how is that going to impact student achievement? So we wanted all of our goals to be student-centered. So you have before you our big audacious goals. We want every child to be on or above grade level in reading every year as measured by the state summative assessment. We want each child on or above grade level in math every year as measured by the state summative assessment. And we want to exceed the state averages on summative assessments. We want all of our children to be on the path to on-time graduation, and we want each of our students to engage in college and career readiness planning that will lead to post-secondary graduate placement. So we have talked to you in the past about our alignment work that we're doing. We want everything in our district to align. So we are starting with a district strategic action plan, which includes our mission and our vision, which then will align our building strategic action plans to. We're in the process of doing that now. And then all of our teachers and our principals' professional growth plans will align to our strategic action plans, which eventually will lead down to the student level. We want our students to write individual growth plans that align with the plans that they're creating in their building. So we're really working hard to align this work, and I know principals are really excited. We wanted to put at the bottom just kind of where this is all coming from. We have a shared vision. We know where we're heading. We know what we want in our school district. And there's two ways, we have two sides of this railroad track. We have the relationship piece, which we've done a really good job of doing over the years, especially last year with COVID. It was very important we stayed connected and we had relationships with families, but we can't lose sight of our results. And so when you are spending equal time on both sides of the railroad track, your train is heading in the right direction, which is our preferred future. I will mention that this is an ongoing process that we will continue to revisit in the future. These are not set in stone. As we're doing this work, we may find that we need to add some additional goals. We may need to revise the current goals that are written. We want this to be ongoing. Another day, another time, we're going to go a little bit deeper into the strategic action planning process of this. So I'm not going to spend any time doing that, but if you wanted to look at what of a product, I've linked one into your agenda. Do you have any questions for me?
done individual growth plans in the past too, correct?
Yes. And we've never lost sight of the individual growth plans. We're just trying to make sure that it's aligning, that the work that we're doing is the right work we need to be doing, all the way down to the student level. This works. Okay. Thank you, Board.
Wake him up.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Cleveland. I believe the first item that I have for you this evening is the 21-22 budget. I have some hard copies. Would anybody like one? Yes?
I printed one out.
Board, this year's budget is a little unusual in that for the first time in, since I've been here for sure, I'm actually budgeting our revenue to be slightly lower than the previous year. And that is primarily due to the fact that, as y'all know, our student enrollment dropped last year, 300 students. First time that's happened in a generation or two, probably at least 2 generations. We lost 300 students last year. Our high point of our enrollment was 22,100 in grades K through 12, and last year we had around 21,800. Our current enrollment today is 21,900. So we are up slightly over last year. Our kindergarten class last year was 1,450. That was the smallest kindergarten class that we've had since I've been in Springdale. And this is my 12th year, I think. So this year our kindergarten class is around 1,550 to 1,580. So it has rebounded some. We're still not at the point we were at our highest. At our highest, we did have a kindergarten class of 1,800, but that's been some years ago. So I was hoping for closer to that 1,800 this year, but I'll definitely take more than, since it went up from last year, so that's a good thing. As a result of that, though, as a result of our declining enrollment last year, our state foundation funding went down because it is based on your prior year enrollment. So if you'll turn, let's see, I'm trying to decide which page, let's go to page 6. It's the easiest for me to look at when we're comparing revenue. You can see that the biggest drop was in state foundation aid, and that's exactly what I'm talking about here. We were funded for 300 students less than the previous year. So although the amount per student went up, being funded at 300 students less caused that drop. So that just doesn't happen in Springdale. So this is new ground for us. You will also see the 2 lines down from that, there's a new line that you've never seen before called declining enrollment funding. That is funding that the state allows districts to help them as they are losing student population to adjust to that new population. It's equal to half of the amount of students you lost. So that's equivalent to 150 of the students that we lost. So that's a new category for us, as you can see. We did not have that last year. Now you'll notice that last year, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds here because I'll put everybody to sleep, but you notice we did get some student growth funding last year, and so you're like, well, how did you get student growth funding if you lost 300 kids? It's because student growth funding is based on 4 quarters, but it's based on the 4th quarter of the previous year and then the first 3 quarters of the current year. So that's actually a payment that we received from our growth from the previous year that we just received last year. But no student. Now, here's the other thing. Student growth funding is paid on your current year enrollment. So if we were to grow, we will on our printout, the next printout we get will have student growth listed, but you cannot receive both student growth and declining enrollment in the same year. They'll give you whichever one is higher. So at this point, we are not up 150 students, so declining enrollment would most likely be the amount we will receive unless we continue to receive students throughout the year. Okay. Sorry, kind of went off in the weeds there. Something else you'll notice on here, on our property taxes, I have budgeted that our property tax revenue will be flat. As we have talked about, last year was an unusual year for us. I've talked about the pendulum swinging, and so even though our assessments are growing and we are collecting more tax revenue, because of the timing, I just and being conservative and feel like our tax revenue will come in about like it did last year. So overall, I have our revenue is budgeted to decline a little less than 1%. So it's not huge, but it is a decline. So let me pause right there. Do y'all have any questions on revenue?
Is the declining enrollment funding, is that temporary funding or?
It is, yes. We will only receive it for, well, you have to lose kids to get it. And so if something were to happen this year and we started losing kids, then next year we would receive it again. So each year they look and they either pay you declining enrollment or student growth.
Is that tied to COVID, I'm assuming, or?
Well, we certainly feel like that was the primary reason for our drop in student enrollment, as parents perhaps chose.
No, I meant is the funding tied?
No, this is state funding. It's in state law, so sure is. If there are no more questions on revenue, let's go to page 8 and let's talk about expenditures a little bit. The first thing I want to point out is if you look at the very bottom, you can see that on what you have in front of you, it's projected an increase of $18 million in our expenditures, or 9%. I looked at last year's because I thought, wow, that's a big number. That's a big increase. But last year, I think the difference was 15 to 16,000 million and 8%. So it's pretty typical with what has happened in the past. I don't anticipate that difference being that stark, but keep in mind this is a budget, and so when you compare, so anyway, this is pretty much where we've been every year when you look at this. Teacher salary 5%, operating's up a little higher. I don't anticipate it'll be that high when all the dust settles, but that's what we're budgeting. So an overall increase of 9%. Pretty typical. Any questions on that?
I do have a question. On page 2, you said that that we budgeted a 9% increase in expenditures, but we expect it to go back to normal in the 21-22 fiscal year.
Yes. Yes, what I was referring to was last year, and I attribute it to the COVID pandemic, our expenditures just weren't what they typically have been. Typically, we'll see a 5 to 6% increase in our expenditures year after year. We just did not see that last year. In fact, I think that we went from 202 million to 203 million between the 2 years. That's very unusual. So I'm saying that I think our expenditures will return more at a normal pace this year. Okay, finally, I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but if you'll turn back to page, let's go to page 5. On page 5, and remember when we're talking about this, I'm talking about funds 1, 2, and 4 because federal funds are kind of their own animal as well as food service. So I kind of take 1, 2, and 4 together. This is where I've laid out basically what's happened with our cash. That's what this is. It shows the beginning balance for each of the years, the predicted, or the revenue, actual revenue for last year versus predicted for this coming year. That shows the slight decrease. And then the actual expenditures for last year versus the projected expenditures for this year. So you can see that last year our cash balance went from 23.6 to 24.8, so we went up in our cash. And this year, I'm projecting 24.8 down to 21, which sounds a little scary, but it's not going to be 21. I mean, we have to budget all of our carryover expenditures, and we're not going to spend ourselves down to zero. So it'll be in. I'm not a bit worried about it. That sounds rather. Yeah. Well, I'm just not. I'm just not. I've done this enough. I'm just not worried about it. It's just the way they have us do the budget. So. I guess one other thing. Do y'all have any questions on that page? Well, good. Then let me confuse you a little more and go back to the back here. Let's go to page 10. This is our federal grant summary. As you know, federal grant money, when we receive federal grant money, which we're so grateful for, but it's given to us for a specific purpose. And you will notice on this that we have a lot more funds available to us this year than we did last year, and that's primarily, or it's not primarily, it's due to the COVID funds that our district, or the ESSER funds that our district will be receiving. These funds can be spent over the next several years. We have to have all of it spent by September of 2024, but they're asking us to go ahead and budget all of it this year. So that's why there's such a stark difference between this year and last year. Okay. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you may have. Sure, but if I could get approval on this, that would be great.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 school year budget.
I have a motion by Mr. Emerson to approve the proposed budget.
Second.
A second by Mrs. Creek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate that. The next item that I have for you is one that we've talked about for a number of years, and that is our free and reduced lunch percentage. It's probably been 5-6 years ago now. Our district as a whole went over 70%. 70% of our student population qualified for free and reduced meals, and that 70% is a significant benchmark in the state of Arkansas. We have funding that is specifically tied to our free and reduced percentage. It's called Enhanced Student Achievement. And if you're below 70%, I'm just going to give you round numbers, you get $500 per student funded for you, okay? If you're above 70%, you get $1,000. So if you're 69, you still get 500. But if you're 70, you get $1,000 per student. So what it means in specific dollars to the Springdale School District is $8 million more dollars. So when we hit 70%, we qualify for $8 million more dollars. Every year during this time, and the point in time that they look at is October 1st. They draw a line in the sand and they say, how many students did you have qualified for free and reduced meals on October the 1st? And so it has to be 70% at that point for us to receive the other $8 million. Every month during the month of September, we have a big push to get families to turn those in. First of all, because we want students to be able to qualify if they qualify, but second of all, because so much is riding on this. Our present number today is 65%. So we have 2 weeks to go, roughly 2 weeks to go, 2.5, and we have to get to the other 5%. In real numbers, that's about 1,000 students. So we are working hard. We are contacting families. Our social workers and counselors are contacting families to make sure that they are aware that they have not completed a free and reduced meal application, and to please consider filling one out and turning it in. The hard part this year is that, as you know, all of our students are not being charged for meals this year. So, communicating to families that even though you're not having to pay for meals this year, we still need you to complete this form, that's our challenge. Last year, they allowed us to have our percentage from the year before carry over, and we were at 72 the year before, so therefore we didn't have to have the push to get us to 70. But this year we can't do that. Well, we can, but well, it's a long story, but anyway, we're below 70. And so we are working hard to get us there. Everyone's aware of it. We talk about it every year. And so anyway, yeah, so that's where we are. Anything else I needed to mention about that, Dr. Cleveland? Y'all have any questions about that? Just so you know, this Enhanced Student Achievement funds are restricted dollars from the state, and they are used for specific purposes. And some of the main uses that we have, and so we're told how we can spend these dollars. Some of the main usages of these funds are student technology, our nursing staff. We can pay for nursing staff out of those dollars. We can pay for social workers out of those dollars. And our school resource officers out of those dollars. So it's really needed money. And so we're going to do our very best to get us back there. So the next item I think I have for you is transportation. Is that correct? Mr. Kevin Conkin is here, our Director of Transportation. You want to come down with me, Mr. Conkin? Our school district is not unique. We are facing a labor shortage in certain areas, just as many companies are across our nation. One of the most obvious labor shortages that we have is bus drivers. I think I spoke to our staff in a short video asking them to consider driving a bus for us, and the statistic that I think is very important is I think it was 4 years ago we had 115 bus drivers, and today we have around 65. The number of students that we have needing transportation has not changed. And so it's becoming more and more difficult for us to get students to school on time and picked up and taken back home at a reasonable time. So I'd like for Mr. Conkin to visit with you for just a minute about some of the things that we're doing to get kids back and forth to school, as well as recruit additional drivers.
Hello, school board. I'm Kevin Conkin. If you've not met me before, transportation director, full-time this year. And so many folks will tell me, oh, I wouldn't want to be you right now. But trust me, I want to be me. It really is important to build that bridge between the education. Transportation is a huge part of that. So we ask everyone here that's in this room, if you have family members, anyone that you know of that would like to get their CDL, to come see me at transportation, because I'm there 12 and 14 hours a day right now. I drove a route this morning, this afternoon. I started this route the very first day of school. And I transport about 140 students a day on that route. Without those bus drivers, to build that bridge between the education is sometimes not possible. So we have right now about 63 drivers. We've had a shortage prior to COVID, but the COVID has made it a crisis of drivers. So over 40% of our staff members are over the age of 65. And according to CDC guidelines, that over 75, about 78% of our drivers are medically at risk. So when you throw COVID into the mix, a lot of these drivers do not want to drive any longer. So across the nation, I study this every day, what other districts are doing to obtain drivers. Massachusetts, the governor in Massachusetts, has called the National Guardian to drive school buses in Massachusetts. I think that we're Springdale, Arkansas. I don't think that we should have to do that. I think that there are folks out there that we can rely on, such as our teaching staff, our coaches have stepped up, our principals have stepped up. It is amazing, but we still need a lot of drivers. From 2017, 18, we run 123 routes. We decreased that from 19, 20 to about 99 routes. This year, we went to about 89 routes, okay? We went to a tier system this year because we were so short of drivers. That means that each driver has to drive a elementary run, a secondary run, or an elementary, middle, and secondary run. So it gives us absolutely no time in between routes if we have an employee to miss, I should say. Last year, because even though we were not transporting as many students because of some virtual, we were able to use drivers to go and pick these up if a driver missed, or pick these up and they'd be a little later. But this year, because we had to go to a tier type system where each driver has those 3 buildings that they serve, morning and afternoon, there's not that 15-minute window. So at this time, I'm gonna ask, do you guys have any questions for me in transportation? I'm sure that.
So when we get rid of a route, what does that look like for the kids that were on that route?
We usually have to call right now. We have to call the building principal. And I'm going to tell you that Dr. Thompson behind me here, she and I have had conversations at about 5:45 in the morning that this bus is not going to run. And so they'll try to send out a thrill chair to the parents. It's not pretty. It's what we have to do right now. I'm working with Robert in our office to build a compiled list of students. He's in the process of mapping students. We usually wait till about October 1 to do the mapping of those students, but we do it by service area. So if 157 is not running, then we'll have that group of students, and then we can push that thrill share to the building principals that's affected by that bus, so that we can notify parents. That's a huge issue that we're working on right now, is get notification out there.
Can I ask a clarified question? Did you mean from year to year to have fewer routes, or were you talking about every day?
Well, originally I was talking from year to year.
They've just been extending the routes, trying to crunch time.
You said we went from 99 to 89. I'm just curious, those kids that were on the 10 routes we don't have anymore.
Well, what we normally do is, because used to we would run like an elementary and a secondary run, we reduce the number of routes. So each run we're calling a route. It's an elementary run, a middle run. So we consolidated all those to be able to accommodate the students.
Just have fewer drivers.
Right, I got you now.
So I got a text a minute ago, asking if I was interested in drive for the Springdale School District.
It wasn't for me, was it?
It didn't sound too bad. It didn't sound too bad. Flexible hours, weekends off, competitive pay, CDL reimbursement, so you're gonna get paid back for your school.
Yes.
You just gotta apply.
Yeah, that's right.
Too, and I don't think you want me to.
We provide all the training. We will reimburse anyone for their license. You can work either in the mornings or just in the afternoons, or you can work several days a week. You can sub for us. We'll take any and all.
You have to go through an extensive background check first.
I might be out on driving record and background check.
Well, we're still waiting on Mr. Hayes'. No.
And tonight only, anyone that speaks in public comments gets a bus route. I didn't get any takers, did I?
We'll give out bus routes.
So
I do want y'all to.
Talking is pretty serious, because my wife has been doing car rider duty in the mornings, so she knows really early when the buses aren't gonna be running. And don't ever tell the very fine professionals doing the car rider line that they need to hire someone from Chick-fil-A to do it better. That's a bad thing to say. It didn't go over too well when I was in the car rider.
My kids in the kitchen.
The other thing is, I do want y'all to know, we are also short workers in our custodial department as well as our food service department. So it's, like I said, it's across our nation. I don't think that we're any more unique than any of the other districts in this area. So we are experiencing the same labor shortages that others are experiencing.
But I will say, we are Springdale, just to show that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Dr. Cleveland. I've got the construction update.
Looks good.
So here's Rollins Elementary. It's looking a lot better. They turned over last Tuesday 6 more areas over to Annette. The learning stairs and the library are actually a couple of those areas. Cafeteria, everything is finished. The furniture's in, the permanent furniture and everything. The gymnasium, we've been, as the coach is ready for more of his equipment, we've been taking it over as he needs it. So, and we do still have some furniture stored in this area for the new area that's not finished yet. So that's actually the library that's upstairs that we just took over last Tuesday. They got it finished and we got all the books and everything took up for the librarian. So this is area C. This is the area that we don't have yet. So they're actually painting parts of it. They've got doors hung. So it's moving along pretty well at this time. These are just some other rooms downstairs in area C. They've got the awning put in out in the back around the bus drive, so it's covered now for buses to load and unload in. This is the upstairs area C, so you can tell they're focusing on the downstairs, and then the trades are just moving up to the second floor. So do you guys have any other questions at Rollins? I didn't know how many of you guys had been out there since it had opened. But it looks really good, and I think Annette's real happy with.
And everything in the kitchen is in. And
Yep, everything is good in all of the areas that we have. They do have one room in that culinary art room that's right in front. The furniture people are using it to assemble furniture and deliver out. And then Flintco has a room in area C in the construction side that will be used for that in the future. That way they're not, Annette has an extra room to spread out the kids.
Using it as an office trailer, right?
They're using it mainly just to stage and then just put together the furniture where it's not dusty, so the furniture doesn't get damaged or anything before it goes into the permanent location. So, Damon talked to you about the Treehouse pantry. It's going pretty good. We're scheduled to have asphalt laid in the parking lot tomorrow morning. As long as that happens, we should be able to get a C of O to get the grand opening going. So we've got a few other projects we've been working on with a few different architect firms. So this is Springdale High, and this is in the courtyard. This would be the view of the new academic wing and the gymnasium. And then here's another view from the football field. You would be looking back at the courtyard. You guys have any questions on Springdale High? And these are just, there's been a lot of time and work put into these renderings, so there's still some work to do before they're finalized, but.
Are we putting the one building over there now and not in between?
Yes, we really wanted to put it in the courtyard area, but all the utilities are there. And so we would be spending literally millions of dollars to move them and then put them back. And so Dusty Graham, our architect at CORE, who I think is phenomenal, He said, you know, we really could put these together, make a whole courtyard area like it was originally planned, and even everything up.
And this makes,
a lot of sense.
it makes more sense on the phasing. So we could build the academic wing, move the students over, and then do demolition and build.
Saves a tremendous amount of money, very efficient taxpayer.
So the building to the east was the one that's between the other two buildings?
Sorry?
The building to the east was the one that's moved?
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna connect those?
No,
Oh, we'll connect them?
Oh,
there'll be about a 30-foot space in between fire codes and,
Oh, fire code won't allow
There's-
us to keep them? Or-
because your new buildings have to be sprinkled, and a lot of that separation is so we can build the academic wing and then move kids in and have it a functioning academic space while we have a construction space between.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it has to do with phasing. Okay, Central Junior High. This would be a view looking from Huntsville at south at the school. So that glassed-in area is actually the cafeteria. And then you would have school on the, back to the east.
what you can see on the left there, the high-rise portion, that's the current gymnasium. The
Yep.
cafeteria, the cafeteria entrance would also be the entrance for the gym, so you could have concession stands, extra space and all right there. And you can also have the cafeteria and the gym to where you can't have access to the remainder of the building if there are not events.
And then all the CTE programs, Agri and all that, locker rooms would be directly south of the cafeteria. That way athletics could go right out to the field, practice field. And then you would have loading areas for material for the CTE programs and stuff. You'd have a direct access to those rooms. Here's another view, and this is,
It's the current cafeteria.
this is the current cafeteria. It's actually from Gutenson.
It's good, so.
It's a typo. But yeah, the glass area is the existing cafeteria. And then the entrance is over where the C is. So you would enter from Gutenson into the school. So that whole school is shifting south.
Go back to the other one so I'm confused, man.
This is from Huntsville looking south. So the tennis court that's there now is right to the right of this cafeteria.
The entrance now, this is what's currently the entrance.
Do you have an overview?
No, I just did 2 renderings of the exterior. I can send you, I can send you the floor plan.
It
But
looks great.
it'll be nice. And like I said, we've had months of input from staff into these
Current entrance,
drawings.
right there.
But no, but I thought you were saying that.
No, it's here,
You
the future
misspoke.
cafeteria.
Yeah, the future cafeteria is
So what's
moving.
What's the current cafeteria? Like, what's all that glass area?
That is the current cafeteria, and it would turn into a library. Mhm.
Yeah.
But parking's not gonna get any better.
When we're done, it will be better.
Okay.
We're getting 95 spaces.
Yeah, during construction's gonna be tight, but once we're done, it'll be better.
Wow,
And potentially more than that even, Randy.
okay, it's encouraging.
Yeah.
And it pulled everything off Huntsville, made it a lot safer.
We're gonna gain parking in the front.
Our current drive.
Okay.
Better drive-through. Oh, yeah, but keeps it safer for our students that walk. I see students that walk every morning and
Wow, that looks.
Yeah.
every day.
So here are a couple renderings of Southwest, what it could look like. And, this would be from Princeton Avenue, looking at the building.
It's gonna be too.
So
Wow.
here's,
Sorry. They have different looks.
Uh-huh.
Schools. I know we've done prototypicals, but we have different architects for each of the, each of the projects.
yep. So this is actually the football field. You're pretty much at the track facility looking back toward the school itself. So this school is actually pulled back to the east and then off of Princeton Avenue back to the south.
That's the current cafeteria right here on this end, right?
The current cafeteria is about in the middle of this building. This,
It
that,
wouldn't exist in this point.
Okay.
that basketball court would butt right up to the fence at the track facility.
Oh.
So, it has slid over to the east a lot. This will fix that drainage issues on the drive when you get into Southwest.
Take the bump away that
It will, it will.
Bump's gonna be gone?
It will.
you cannot.
I'm gonna be disappointed. That's been there for 40 years.
Yeah. So that's the views of the projects that we have in the works. Do you guys have any questions?
We have a meeting on
Yep.
Thursday with Brad Chilcote with WD to really go over and massage the view of all that. So that's just early.
Yeah.
And central project.
Architecture Plus, the gentleman's name is Michael Johnson. It's next to the firm. Have you ever been to Alma, to their facilities?
Yeah.
He did those.
The basketball gym area?
Yeah,
Oh,
all that. And he's done a lot of work at Fort Smith, done a lot of work at the universities, from what I understand.
And we have floor plans of all of these projects. We're still meeting with staff and administrators, trying to just get just massage get everybody in the right place that makes the most sense.
We're within 100 feet, 100 square feet of meeting the POR at Central. Never done that before. And it's going to be a lot larger than the current facility, which will host 900 students that'll be there.
And then also at Rollins, Area C, we should get final C of O around November 1st. So Flintco's been working hard on that Area C to finish it and stuff. So it's going on schedule.
Will that be the final area?
Yeah.
So November 1st will be in there 100%.
Yep. Yeah, if everything stays on track, and it has so far. You know, they've run into some delays just with shipping and manufacturing delays, but they've held good timelines on this, so.
Mr. White, do you have any information on that Fletcher Road connecting to 112? I see the trucks every morning when I come in.
I know they're working on it. I can get an update for next
I
month.
think that'd be good for the school board. Right now, there's really one way in, it's at Barrington. And as they open Fletcher, that will really smooth out traffic concerns for the future also.
Yeah, I can get with the mayor and find out a timeline and maybe even a construction calendar on it. Yeah. Okay, all right, thanks.
I think we want to go ahead and take the break now and then let Kendra give the update on where we're at, and then we'll go straight from there into patron comments and then into, that way they can all be together because her information is related to y'all, which is related to us. So we're going to take a 10-minute break and be right back. Board, are you ready for?
Yes, ma'am.
Ready.
Ms. Clay, please ask.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Cleveland and board. My comments will be brief because I know most of the conversation needs to be yours, but just as an introduction to the conversation that you will have, the first slide, Dr. Cleveland touched on this briefly, is if we can change to the next slide, my clicker's not working. Thank you. Dr. Cleveland touched on this briefly as he was talking about his letter to the governor. These are some really great graphics that Trent Jones and his communications team put out to better help our families understand where we are on the quarantine requirements. And basically how you get quarantined and most importantly, the ways you can avoid quarantine. These were put out on social media. They outline that if you're exposed and both parties, both the infected and exposed, are wearing masks, you get a quarantine exception, and also if the exposed person is vaccinated. So I think this has been helpful in trying to explain the why and the how behind the quarantine, which is not something that a lot of people were familiar with in the detail that we're now looking at it. In getting to the data, I linked 2 items there just for background information. You have had both of these items previously. The first is the impact survey. This is data that was collected most of last year on a weekly basis by Kathy Launder, our point of contact. It was reported to the Department of Education and outlines the number of staff and students that are actively positive and quarantined on particular dates. We have continued to track that data. In full disclosure, there are a couple of weeks towards the end of last year where we stopped tracking it when numbers got very low. So you'll see it go off and then we pick back up this school year. This impact survey data is available on our COVID webpage. It's public information. Anyone who wants to look at it has that information available. It's updated once a week, typically on Fridays. Something that was added to it, just as a reference point, is the ACI data. If you're familiar with the ACI data, ACI is the Arkansas Center for Health Improvement. They track community spread, so they use health department numbers to look at active cases within the community. So although they use the boundaries of school districts, they're looking at community spread. They're what you see, the purple zone, the red zone, the orange zone. That information is in there just so you can see where the community spread lines up with our numbers. What we've seen throughout the pandemic is our case numbers usually follow the trend line of what's happening in our community and in the state. The historical data link shows the information that I'm about to share with you as far as the students and staff positive, PCCs, and those PCCs that subsequently tested positive as it's been presented to you since last October. So I made this report beginning in October of last year, continued on through May, and then here I am again. So this month's data. 400, and this is from the beginning of school, August 16th, and if someone has been on campus from August 16th to present, and ended Sunday. So we compiled and put this in the presentation with a cutoff point of Sunday. So 495 students and staff have tested positive. That's approximately 2% of students and staff. 95 of those 495 were staff, 3.2%. 400 students, 1.8%. Through Sunday, we identified 785 students and staff as PCCs, and 6 of those PCCs tested positive. That's 0.8%. We saw of those 6, 4 junior high and high school students and 2 elementary students. So that last figure there on the 6 of the 785, that's really the data that drove Dr. Cleveland's letter to Governor Hutchinson about the quarantine requirements currently, because it appears, the term that was used in the letter, it appears we're over quarantining. So if we could work some way to quarantine more effectively or less or something, but these statistics appear that we're over quarantining. And the thing is, it's not new to this year. When we looked back last year, it's almost the same results. Quarantining a lot, very few testing positive. I included in your agenda a link to the Department of Health guidance that was recently sent out about why they have the authority to quarantine. There have been some questions about that of why. It was a memo sent out by Dr. Romero, just reference point for you. If we can go to the next slide. On the daily, or not the daily, I'm sorry, on the weekly COVID analysis that you all have access to, and is also a version publicly available. The publicly available version, we have to redact any number less than 5 for privacy concerns, but you can still get a lot of data from there. One piece of information that we included recently was the number of PCCs per positive, broken down at both the elementary and middle, junior high and high school, all students, all staff, broken down by a number of different levels. And yesterday we even broke it down to include pre-K. Now, I would very much like all the data to spearhead into a single data point that we could look at and say, that's it. This is what we need to do, yes or no. It's just not that easy. So some things I want you to consider, and I know that you know this, about looking at PCCs, and particularly when we break it down to the PCCs per positive, it's informative data. It just may not be the one and only piece that we're able to look at. Elementary students are with the same group of students for most of the day. So even if we were looking at overall number of people they come in contact with, it's a much smaller pool than we're looking at when we get to secondary. So the chance of them having less PCCs is going to be, there's going to be a lesser chance of less PCCs regardless of mask or no mask. Now, I will say this, the mask mandate at elementary has allowed elementary teachers, for the most part, during the instruction time, to have their kids freely moving and interacting because they're not having to worry about those PCCs that may be sitting beside them in the classroom. Most of the PCCs at elementary and middle school are at lunchtime because obviously you're unmasked at lunch. When you get to the secondary level, those students are traveling to multiple periods per day, so they come into contact with many more students than our elementary. This last bullet point is something that I thought was interesting. When we pulled out the PCC numbers at pre-K, I believe it was about a little over 3 PCCs per positive was the average. So I called Ms. Wolfenberger and Ms. Rojo and said, you know, tell me about what your day looks like. Tell me about what would be different in your day and what would be different in identifying PCCs if your pre-K students were masked. I was surprised to learn that they do not believe their PCC numbers would increase very much if their students were masked. They told me that their PCCs, much like we see at elementary and middle school, are mostly identified during meal times, and this is unique to pre-K, during rest time. So even if masks were mandated for those pre-K students, they're going to be unmasked during those meal time and rest time. They explained to me that the way their program is structured and was structured pre-COVID, their students are given so much free choice in what they're doing that they're constantly moving around. So unless a particular student has a buddy that they're with all day, most of the time they're moving around so as not to meet that 15-minute threshold. I was surprised to learn this. They did say they do bring students together as a group, but it's usually for short periods of time. because we're talking about 3 and 4-year-olds, and then they break back apart for more choice-driven instruction. So I just say all of that to bring to light the data's not perfect. If we've learned anything in the past 18 months through this pandemic, you can make your data say anything that you want it to say. I don't want this data to say anything. I just want it to be informative and a piece of your conversation. So that is the only information that I have. Do we have any questions about the data pieces?
I just had one question, and I have actually looked at the data. But
Thank you.
there's mounds of it.
Yeah.
So. But you would agree that we have not really seen an increase in the positivity rate of PCC even with the Delta variant.
That's correct.
And like, the Delta variant is so much more contagious, but we have not seen that spread.
Right, and so just some context, all of last year, and I'm looking at the exact numbers we put in the governor's letter, all of last year we identified 6,228 people that needed to quarantine, PCCs. Of those, 104 tested positive, so that's 1.6%. Where this year, we're dealing with a smaller time period, but this year, as of the 9th, when we sent this letter, 749 PCCs with only 4 at the time testing positive. So that's less than 1%, 0.4%. So yes, I would agree with that statement. And all the historical data that we've seen on that is in the historical data link that's there too, if you feel the need to go back and study it.
Think then the average PCC in the junior high school level is due to higher population?
It could be.
More teachers, more classrooms?
I think the takeaway is we don't know what it's due to. So unless we got to the point where we were having, in-depth conversations with multiple data points with each positive and each PCC, were you masked? Were you unmasked? Were you 6 feet apart? All of those conversations that could really narrow a single factor. My point is I don't think you see that number and say, oh, it's because they're unmasked. Now, could it be because they're unmasked? Sure. But it could also be because they're around 7 or 8 periods of students every day. So there's more potential for exposure.
And activities before and after school.
Yes.
Any more questions for Ms. Clay?
Okay, if there aren't any questions on the data, the next agenda item is the face covering policy. I will turn that over to you unless you need me to answer any questions. I will say that as the policy as you passed it last month is set to expire at the end of today. So if there is no action today, that policy will expire. All right.
Oh, yeah, I have a question. So in our packet, our agenda packet, there is a document labeled COVID policy vote. What is that vote?
Yes, I don't even know where I know that's in the agenda. I'm not sure what part. We should have talked about that. So it should say COVID leave policy vote. So last month you passed the extended COVID leave policy. Because that policy affected personnel policies and was after July 1, we had to have the staff vote on it for it to go into effect. So it's just having it in the agenda is getting it in the record that we in fact went through that voting process. So that's related to COVID leave.
And that was a tally of the people who responded to the...
Yes, we sent the link out to everyone, and those are the ones that responded. That's one thing through COVID I have had nobody be upset about is COVID leave.
Was it not 100%?
I'm sure, I don't even know. Yeah.
Somebody was.
Somebody voted no.
I don't know. It's anonymous.
They didn't know what they were voting
Right.
on.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Board, before I start, I guess, do you have the timer?
It is. Got 2 minutes, go.
We're gonna time me, good deal. I'm perfectly okay with the 2 minutes on me. Before we start this, again, like I said last month, please be kind and courteous and in your words. I know how passionate, we've read every single email, I'm just not answering them. I don't really think most of you want my answers. I think you just want your voice heard. And your voice has been heard. We have read every single one. I've read the Facebook messages, I've read the text, listened to the phone calls. We've also gotten responses and information from teachers, principals, and staff, as well as medical personnel from all of our hospitals. So please don't ever think that A, we haven't heard you, and B, we're not constantly reaching out to make sure that we're getting correct information. Board, before we start patron comments, does anyone want to comment or wait till after?
I'd like, can I have 2 minutes?
You can have 2 minutes.
So there's obviously some folks here that want to comment again, and I just want to remind my colleagues on the board and you guys in the audience who plan to speak, we came to our decision last month not by what we wanted to enact as an opinion of the board on whether we wore masks or not. It was the opinion of how are we going to manage school the best. So the quarantine rules really came into play, and it really didn't matter whether I oppose masks or whether I support masks. Our objective as a board was to facilitate school, and how are we best going to facilitate school. So I just wanted to let you know that you come up here all fired up and charged, and I could do the same thing myself tonight, but it's really not going to get us anywhere. If you want to try to change something, you got to go to the state Department of Health. You got to go to the governor. You got to go to our legislators. You got to go to those people. We are handcuffed by the quarantine rules. And we agree as a board, it's our objective to keep kids in school because we feel like education is important. We feel like meals are important. You heard Kelly Hayes say that we're at 70% free and reduced. We've got kids who need school, meals, and care and comfort at school. So whether I like masks or I don't like masks, it's really not important right now. That's later. We're trying to keep kids in school. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you come up here and talk to us about what your opinion is. Keep the kids in mind, because I've had to check my opinion at the door when I come in here. So it's a different mindset for me, but that's what my role is as a school board member. So I would ask for that courtesy in how you share your opinion with us again tonight.
Any other board members? With that, Sarah, would you like to go first? Sarah? Okay, Sarah. Huggins?
She left.
Oh, she already left? Okay. Sherry Zimmerman?
I'm a grandmother. My name is Sherry Zimmerman, and I live at 1266 Ashport Street, Springdale, Arkansas. This mask mandate was supposed to be temporary. It's time to free our children from this governmental overreach. If God intended for children to wear masks, He would have created children with masks. Children need to interact with others. Part of their learning experience is seeing other people's facial expressions, especially smiles. This mandate is causing anxiety and depression. It's a form of child abuse. Children are more likely to die from accidental drowning than from this CCP virus. You are trying to take away our freedoms one mandate at a time. I saw on your website that each board member was given a $1,000 bonus. I wonder, what was the stipulation? And to receive this bonus, was there something in there that makes you want to mask our children? Thank you.
Can we address that?
Yes, before we move on, in no way has any board member received any money. We're not paid and we didn't receive a bonus for anything.
Ever.
Ever.
It was on your website.
The teachers received the bonus.
Sorry.
Okay, I just want to clarify that to make sure everybody understands, we do not get any money. And I don't want that rumor started. I would be happy to show. Be nice, but that
I like the CCTV virus though.
okay, yes, but the teachers did get the bonus.
Okay.
I thought I missed a check.
Josh Rice.
Thank you, Board. It's been my pleasure to be a teacher in this district for my entire adult career, 17 years. I've taught board members, children. I love the school district. I know the pressure that's on you. I hear you. I understand that the state has rules and requirements on us. I really appreciate Dr. Cleveland's letter. I think it has really cool-headedness and common sense in a time where that's in short supply. However, if the state was equipped to run every school district from a hierarchy, then we would have no need of school boards. God has put you in this position, and He requires of you that you do good and that you follow justice and that you pursue righteousness. And the way that we do that is by understanding that we can't wedge ourselves in to the family health decision-making tree. I would just urge you, on a positive note, I don't want to use my 2 minutes, on a positive note, people follow conviction and they follow courage. We've seen dwindling numbers on some of the presentations tonight. I guarantee you there are parents and families and communities around who saw that we did not rush to judgment in August to mask up our people. I saw you guys labor and struggle, and I'm proud of you for that because I love you and I pray for you. We have an opportunity here to be different, to draw a line in the sand and to show some courage and say, hey, at Springdale, things are different. And at Springdale, we invite you to come where we're going to take the risk. We're going to interpose against higher bodies that put strict rules on us. And we're going to take care of our kids in Springdale because in Springdale, we know what's best for our kids. That's what we can do together. And I urge you to show conviction and to let this thing expire so that we can unmask our kids and so that we can get back about the business of education because masks do interfere with it. It's hard to understand each other with this going on. It's been the toughest 2 years of my career, so I'll save you 5 seconds. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Tracy?
Hi there. Words are powerful things, aren't they? I love you. I behold the Christ in you. And I know how difficult this is for everybody. These are challenging times. School was challenging for me. I was an A student from K through 12 with occasional B+. But what got me through 7 years of really information crammed into 12 years, spread out, a lot of memorization, a lot of boredom, was yawning. Yawning gave me oxygen to my brain. It enlivened me. It kept me going. So did not rebreathing my waste coming out of my mouth. These kids are not able to wipe the snot off their little noses wearing masks. It's disgusting. And I hope to God that this thing expires and we can get back to some kind of normalcy and these children can have a childhood that they can remember with fond memories of friends smiling, of their teachers' faces that they love and the expressions they're on. It's so important for us to have socialization while we're growing up. And we are not diseased. We are not vermin. We are human beings, and we should see each other as such, and with respect for each other. So that's my time. Thanks.
Thank you. John Welton.
The long evening. Do y'all remember me? That's okay. I went through 5 drafts, and as of last night, I'm not going to talk about masks. I'm not going to talk about mandates. I'm not going to talk about your positions or anyone's positions. Can you hear me now? I guess I'm a little bit taller than the average bear. How about that?
Better.
Okay. Question. What is the definition of truth? The definition of truth is the actual state of a matter, an adherence to reality, conformity to reality or actuality. Jesus revealed, I have come into the world to testify to the truth. Truth is that which is consistent with the mind, will, character, glory, and being of God. Let the truth, as you currently know it, guide your decisions this evening. Just let it lapse. You'll be the better for it. We'll all be the better for it. Choices you make each day will build or dismantle your character in the days to come. Each of us will be making hard decisions for ourselves, family members, communities, and for some of us, we will leave a legacy for generations to come. Only the truth will set us free from tyranny. I will leave you with 2 of my quotes. I say they're mine. It just works. Find what makes you take the first step, then take a leap of faith. You know what you know until you learn more. It is what you do with the knowledge that builds your character. And with that, thank you for your time.
Lisa.
Hello. Good evening, Board. Good evening, Dr. Cleveland and Ms. Smalling. My name is Lisa Welton. I'm a resident of the SSD Board of Directors Zone 1, and my child attends school in Zone 2. The matter of expiring, continuing, and/or modifying the current face covering policy for the district is before you this evening, and I ask that you allow the policy to expire based on facts and not fear. Firstly, I am so encouraged, appreciative, and hopeful about the proposal letter that you, Dr. Cleveland, sent to our governor. I see this as a huge step in the right direction to achieve a win for both educational choice and for parent choice. My question is, what can I do? What can we do to support the board in this manner? We are your hands and feet in the community, and we would like to help. Second, I am very much a realist, and I know these things take time. So I would love to know when we expect to hear back, but that doesn't change the status of tonight's purpose. So based on the data that we have available, we see that less than 0.5% of the Springdale School Board, or the Springdale School District, has been impacted. If I actually change these numbers to match a CDC, a 30% growth, that really means 22 student growth, if we assume that there's growth, because I couldn't see the historical data. Under the 10th Amendment, and this is in regard to the memorandum that was sent, there has to be compelling governmental interest, and there has to be a solution that's tailored specifically to address safeguarding against COVID. I know I have 8 seconds. With less than 0.5% of our school district that's being impacted by COVID numbers, an inability to discern whether or not the mask is truly making a difference in communicability, do we really have to make that decision? I ask again that you suspend, or you suspend at the very minimum a vote this evening and consider the facts that are not pointing to that masking is the answer. Thank you.
Tom Mulvaney.
Good morning, or afternoon, my name is Tom Mulcahy. I've heard you guys speak a lot. Thank you for your opening. It's nice to know what people need to do. I've contacted about 6 people in the state, no response from them. They're not helping you guys.
Just stay after.
They're not helping from our, okay, if they're helping you, we don't know about it, so I'm glad to hear about that. What I'm seeing is the school board's put in a bad situation. The quarantine rules are stinky, and there's a big game being played, and you guys are being beat up like a football. I don't appreciate them doing that to you guys. I think you're all decent people. I think the biggest problem we've seen is we had a test going on 30 days ago, and you know what the results are. Results are, my guess is it doesn't make a difference. Masks have never stopped the spread of COVID. They never will. You can have a preference, I get it, but the facts show they don't stop it. We also know that the vaccine doesn't stop the spread of COVID. So all the rules are set up to really just cause pain and just frustration. It becomes difficult. There's a lot of fighting, and the people that are making these rules aren't here in this room. They're sitting somewhere in the back room laughing. And that's how I see it. Well, we have to deal with this. So thank you for what you've done so far. I pray that you continue to walk down that road. You guys fought the battle, you told me, Dr. Cleveland, to go back to school when COVID started. You guys took the leadership. You did it. You stepped in. You went in. I'm asking the same thing. Step in. Go at it and say, you know what? We know what it looks like without a mask. We understand. Some COVID will go around. I got it in the last month. I get it. It happens. It's okay. The children who are wearing the masks are the ones that are the most, they're almost, what's the word, invincible, and they're the only ones being forced. So I think we got to really think about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and you got a lot of people that are supporting you to do the right thing. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Mandy Page.
First of all, I just want to say thank you guys, because I've been listening to different school boards across the nation, and you guys are trying your best to do the best for the students. You're trying to do the best for the community. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate that. I really, really do. You guys stepped up last school board meeting to make a tough decision, and you guys were kind of by yourself a little bit if you look around a lot of the schools in the nation. And I just appreciate you guys taking the time to think through that. I want to bring up something that I have found online, and it's an academiccoup.com. Our own Dr. Fauci wrote a paper in 2008 about the Spanish flu of 1918. In the paper, he stated more people had health complications and death due to mask wearing than the flu. He said, and I quote, "The real killer of the 1918 influenza was the masks." Globalresearch.com. Why hasn't Dr. Fauci told us about the lethal risks associated with bacterial infections from wearing masks? I thought the Hippocratic Oath was to do no harm. I say all of this to just basically say, have you guys even looked out with OSHA, an expert? Maybe seek someone with OSHA that actually is the one who knows the safety implications of a mask, and do they work? And and how they don't work. I've heard different OSHA speakers talk, and several of them have said that they are the ones who work with the doctors. They're the ones who know the information. I would just say if you have a question about whether masks do or don't work, seek someone that works with OSHA to come in and present something about masks. That way you have more information than just going with something you see online or going with what somebody else says. Go with an expert. And I'm not talking about a doctor. I'm talking about someone who actually is an expert. Just my consideration. Thank you.
Robert Beard.
Can you hear me? My name is Robert Beard. I taught at George Junior High and Springdale High for the last 12 years. Usually when I'm here, I'm standing behind my students as I speak to you about their accomplishments. We met last March 2020 when my students won $50,000 for their Samsung Solve for Tomorrow project to help veterans with phantom limb pains. In 2019, I was here when my students won $20,000 and we strapped the VR to Mr. Hutchinson and shrunk him, I believe. In 2017, I was here when my student won the National Esri GIS mapping competition. I resigned on August 10th. The current mask policy only requires students in grades K through 7 to wear masks. I taught grades 8 and 9. One of my daughters was born with a heart condition. I could not risk bringing home an infection to her. I'm blessed that I have the ability to homeschool my children right now. Not many other parents have that option. Much of that is thanks to what Springdale Schools has provided for me as the highest paying district in the state. I place no blame on you, as you should never have been placed in this situation. Every possible agency at the federal and state level that could make this decision to require masks in school passed the buck to you. Now it is in your laps with no way to please everyone. It sucks to wear masks for 8 hours a day at school. I know, I did it last year. But I have seen the impact of my students' education when they were quarantined as close contacts, some of them multiple times. If requiring masks would prevent some of the quarantines, it is worth the suckiness of wearing them. Dr. Cleveland's letter to the governor might make some of at the health department nervous, but I do think it has a good point that if parents could guarantee their children wouldn't be quarantined if they were wearing a mask, that would encourage more to be wearing them statewide, even at school districts with no mask policy. The quarantine rules currently have serious issues, but that's the game you're forced to play. The CDC released information on September 3rd about a teacher at a school in California. The school required all students and staff to wear masks there. But they did allow the teachers to temporarily remove their mask during instruction. After not wearing a mask during reading lesson, 8 out of 10 students in the first 2 rows and even 2 students in the back row were infected. In Arkansas, only 5 of the 12 infected students would have been quarantined under our rules. Masks work best as a source control, preventing the infected person from spreading it to others, but teachers in Springdale are currently not required to wear masks. I ask you to please extend the mask mandate and require all students and staff K through 12 to wear masks while indoors and on student and school transportation. Over 749 students have been quarantined already. Many of those would have been avoided had masks been required. Thank you for consideration, all that you do.
Josh.
Josh Crane. My wife wouldn't come with me tonight because she's scared of what I might say, but I have a son at Shaw. He's in 2nd grade. I respect every one of your positions. I've been there, not necessarily with that, but I've been faced with tough decisions. And when there's a decision that is not mine to be had, I don't make it. This, Dr. Cleveland even said in the prior meeting, that, and I think everybody would agree, but this is a state department or health department matter. They put it on your lap. My son, he had a meltdown the 2nd or 3rd day of school, letting out car rider line because he didn't want to wear a mask. Miss Bewley, if she's watching, is awesome because she came and consoled him, got him, all that taken care of. Also, I'm not going to get up here and do the fact deal, just like I said last month, because like Miss Clay said, you can find fact to fit whatever narrative you want. masks, it sounds like we're being hurt more by the quarantining. We're over quarantining than the mask. So I don't understand the mask. Do not understand the mask. But the Washington County Joseph Wood said today that, or not today, this week, released a deal, said any medical decision, which is exactly what this is, should be consulted between you and your doctor. You guys are not my doctor. Nick Emerson was the only one that stood up for pro-choice, even though it got reported you were not pro-choice. Mr. Ramos mentioned, pulled at heartstrings about people laying off. You know, I hire people for a living. If some kid has to quarantine, a parent has to quarantine, I would pray to God they come back on day 11 because there is a shortage for sure. 300,000 people at Fayetteville at the Razorback game. Let's get rid of the mask. Thank you.
Carla Santana?
Gosh, I think I'm the shortest one of the bunch. I'm really nervous, so I'm gonna start with that. But I can't help but think of all the kids I'm doing this for. I've been a sub in the Springdale School District for 2 years. And what makes it hard is when you have that one kid who's having a hard time with the mask and still try to take care of the other 20 plus students in there. So I'd like to ask you, because we vote for you guys to be our voice. We do. I know your faces. I grew up in the school district. I love Springdale school districts. I love the schools. My son loves it. But how are you facilitating an environment for them to learn if there's one teacher having to take care of the students who are having a really hard time coping with this mask? I cried one day in PE. A child got hurt. Everyone has a valid reason to fear COVID, to wear their masks or not to wear them. This child, I asked him, I'm like, hey, you got hurt, would you like a hug? He had 2 masks on. I thought it'd be fine. I went in for a hug. He shoved me, screamed at the top of his lungs, no, I don't want COVID and I don't want to die. So tell me, please, how is this mandate actually facilitating a good learning environment? I've already gotten talked to by my own child's teacher saying that she gets his attention for 5 minutes and then he's gone. Like, you could see it in his schoolwork. He refuses to learn. We've seen that with his Lexia, with everything. And I get it that it's such a small number. I really, really do. And I get you have your data and you're following state rules. But you have a choice to say no as well. Just like we had the choice to vote for y'all and have a choice to speak to you guys today. I spent 5 years after graduation in the Marine Corps, where we have a term called embrace the suck. My child does not need to embrace the suck. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Penny Baskin?
My child is one of those special children. She has learning disabilities, and this has set her back so far. She has suffered psychologically. She's had 3 doctors say she needs to not be wearing this mask. But because of her disabilities, I had to make the choice of homeschooling or leaving her in public school. She's my youngest of 8 daughters. And there's certain things that I've not been able to figure out how her brain works to be able to teach her those things at school or at home. So I felt like she's been forced into a school environment that is helping her in education-wise, but is hurting her in emotional and social areas. She came home last week with her cheeks blister red because of the heat on the bus. She's one of 3 students on her bus. So I think that you guys need to, you're elected by the people, you're put into this position by the majority that have asked you to speak for them. And what we're saying is, I understand, I've worked in the medical field for 29 years, I understand the medical part, but this is not protecting our children. I've had COVID twice myself, very, very severe. And I had masks on when that happened both times. These masks aren't saving our kids. So please stand for our kids, stand for our voice, and listen to what the people are needing, because she is one of the ones that have a difficult time.
Are there any more on that one?
Christina?
Hi, my name is Christina Arisa, and I spoke in the previous meeting, and, you know, I have to say that it really tans my hide to hear some parents talk about children with special needs, because I am a parent of a child with special needs who goes to Cassidy Children's Center 3 times a week with prescribed 3 one-hour sessions. She is very delayed. She has a severe, no, not even severe, it is a profound speech disorder delay, which is the worst that she can have. And my child wears a mask to her therapy and also to Bernice Young every single day. Whenever I go to Cassidy, I see children with Down syndrome, children with other different types of disabilities, low-functioning autism, and it appalls me to hear parents talk about how it is recommended by a doctor. It may be recommended by a doctor for that child because that child may have emotional or sensory issues with wearing that mask. I get that, okay? But at what point are we going to stop the madness and realize that, you know what, my child's life is in all of your hands. My child's life is in the state's hands, okay? And you know what? I'm done with it. I'm done with it. If the mask mandate ends in Springdale school districts, I will rip my child out of the school, and I will suffer whatever consequences the law wants to come after me for, because you know what? Those memories that we're supposed to create and have a good childhood for our kids and let them have those happy moments, what kind of damn memories am I going to have with my kid if she ends up getting COVID and then she's dead? I'm going to have to live with the fact that I let my child go to school without wearing a mask, or I let my child go to school because you guys didn't put a mask mandate in place. So you know what? No, my child's life is not up for auction. It's not. And her life is not up for a vote. So I am imploring you, please, to continue to mandate the mask in schools. This poor man here has to resign from his job because he has a child at home that has heart issues. He's one of yours, and you guys let this happen to him. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
I'm not on the list, but can I say something? Or do I need to sign on it? Okay.
Hello, everybody. I was here last time. My name's Jimmy Woods, and before I start, I'd like to just say a word of prayer. Father, I just come before you humbled, and I feel for the lady that just spoke. And there's a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. The man spoke earlier that there is a truth, and the truth is a person. His name's Jesus Christ, and he came and died for each one of us. He has the answers, and I just ask you to come into this room right now, tear all the hate, tear all the separation apart, and give the school board the wisdom and the guidance to make the decision. Amen. So my life and my kids' lives in God's hands. And this is a very difficult decision that you guys have to make, and I get it, and I feel for what she's talking about. And I feel for what the other side's talking about. But ultimately, I have to look out for my kids. you know? I mean, I can't control it, what you guys decide, but my decision, if you guys go with the mask mandate, I'll do this, or the mask mandate, I'll pull mine out just because I believe that my kids, they think something's wrong with them. They didn't even do anything. You know, they're 11-year-old kids. And to me, I've been praying and meditating on this for, you know, since the last meeting and just asking for that wisdom and guidance. And I believe for me personally and my family that I have to pull them out, or that we have to do the, you know, the distant learning to where they're not masked all day. But again, I know y'all have a difficult decision to make. And I believe if we put God first in this decision, He has the answers. And I know not everybody agrees with that, but that's what I believe in. And I read your message on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but my wife does. And I feel for what you're going through, the anxiety, the eating, all that stuff. There's a lot of hate and discontent and in my opinion, evilness that's going on that's trying to divide all of us. And I just rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
Board, we have had the opportunity to listen to 12 of our patrons. So now I will open the floor up for discussion, vote, whatever you as a board would like to.
I mean, if you look at it on the surface, I mean, I respect everybody's opinion, but we didn't really have too many opinions about wearing the mask. I guess that really surprises me. If it's that hostile of a subject, I don't get it. Anybody else see that as odd?
Well, I mean, I do feel like a lot of the emails we received were.
Maybe it's just because we just get emails, I don't know. We had 12 people, and we only had 2 that were really passionate enough to come to our board meeting to speak up about their position.
I'd like to say something about that.
But we're not, the patron comments are done.
I just made an observation, that's all.
That's not the point, though. The point is
The point is, ma'am, I'm sorry, this is my meeting. And I'm not going to let it get out of control. It's the board's time to discuss. I heard you and you're passionate, and I will ask you again to please not talk.
I just made an observation.
Board, any other questions, observations, discussions?
Well, I'm just gonna say I'm writing questions down as people talk. And I have a lot of questions written down, but one of them just sticks out to me. And pretty much what it boils down to is, does not mandating, which we're pretty much just talking K-7 at this point, does not mandating outweigh the risk of more kids being quarantined, is what it boils down to. Is the benefit of kids going to school without a mask on, does that outweigh more kids potentially being at home? Because they're being quarantined due to bad quarantine guidelines. I think what I'm hoping is that whatever decision we make is a very short-term decision, and that we hear back from the governor or Dr. Romero, hopefully well before our next school board meeting, and we can call a special meeting and make changes, but if we have to. But that's what I'm sitting here. I'm just thinking out loud, and that's what I'm sitting here pondering is, is sending kids to school so they can see each other's faces and see their teachers' faces and vice versa, and everything that, all the good stuff that comes with kids not wearing a mask, does that outweigh kids that need to be at school so they can eat and be taken care of? Which one's better? I don't know that I have that answer, but
I mean, the information we got from one of the elementary schools was out of 14 positive cases, we had 19 quarantined because they were at lunch. Had they been at not wearing masks, it would have been 107. That would have had to quarantine because of the PCC rules. So 88 more kids would have to have been home for 2 weeks.
You extrapolate that over 16 schools, 15 schools, elementary schools, is a lot.
My son got quarantined 5 times his senior year, and it was.
Mr. Bell?
My thoughts are, I have a couple things actually. Number one, Mr. Woods, I'd like to thank you for praying for us all. I think that was important and very honorable. And I'd like to thank everybody in here also for maintaining this week, or this month and last month. You know, we are Springdale, and this has been phenomenal. The experience has been much better than expected, and it's because of you and us and all of us. But we are here because education is important, meals are important, social and emotional health is important, financials and for the family and for the community is important. So while we're trying to, as Ms. Page said, do what's best for our schools and best for our community, we have to take those things into consideration. And as Mr. Crane said, my wife's probably quite worried about what I'm about to say too. So she's probably watching and thinking through that. And I use these to say that we're all in the same boat here. And so the decision that we have to make is, again, what's best for our students and best for our community. I still feel the same that I did last week. I don't want to send a single student to school with a mask on, not one. But we're not in that reality today. Or they'll go home.
And I echo what Clint says. I mean, the study that this elementary school did, and that's just one of the elementary schools, that proves that it keeps more kids' butts in the seats. And that's the ultimate goal, is to keep the kids in school. Because last year the kids weren't in school, and our scores were in the tank. Parents aren't very good teachers. Sorry, I'm not. I don't know how teachers do it. So the kids got to be in school, and the only way to keep them in school, it seems right now, the way the hand we've been dealt, is to put the mask on. And I am 100% against that. If I go to a restaurant and they tell me I have to wear a mask, I turn around and I leave. But the reality is, keep the kids in school, you got to play the game.
Until, we're no.
I mean, it's just that's the way it is right now. I'm hoping it gets changed. I hope that Dr. Cleveland has opened up a communication line here that maybe within days or weeks, we can do something different. But for right now, I just don't see how we can change what we're doing, because if there's something working, it's working. We're better off than most of the other districts around here, numbers-wise. So
Something that was said by someone about is how people can help. I firmly believe people can help by writing the Department of Health, or writing your governor, or to ask them to at least change the quarantining rules. I mean, or to at least let us try. I mean, that's where, Ms. Creek.
I actually received the second email for one of the schools too, that used the same concept. What would happen if the kids weren't wearing masks, and it was 5 versus 22 kids that would end up home. So, and back to what Kevin said, we all have to check a lot of our feelings at the door because, and then somebody in here also said over quarantining. We are quarantining perfectly healthy kids and keep them out of school. And that's the decision that's going to be made today. Not, does it work? Does it not work? Do I want my kid wearing it? Does he like wearing it? Does he not like wearing it? That's kind of checked at the door at this time as well, because 5 versus 22, 19 versus 107, those are some big numbers. You sent 107 kids home in one school. That's a lot of kids. And that's what we want you guys to understand today is we're past the are you a mask wearer? You're not a mask wearer. We're at a point of let's deal with this quarantine and how do we keep, and somebody corrected me last time on this, how do we keep healthy kids in school and away from quarantining? And the only way I see that is for us to continue temporarily until we can see something else. And I'm also happy that you reached out to the governor, and hopefully that opens up a whole level of communication where there can be different rules set up to where we're not having to send healthy kids home for 7 days.
I mean, I agree with everybody else. It's not about wearing masks or not. I mean, like, it's trying to keep the kids at school. And right now with the quarantine rules the way they are, like, I don't see how we can change it right now.
Do I have anything else to say? Yeah, I probably do. I really don't like being responsible for telling your kids what to do. I really hate that. I hate that with a passion. I hate sitting at a Razorback football game with 90,000 people, seeing a lot of people who work here, a lot of kids who go to school here, and then we come back and practice the hypocrisy of putting a mask on at school. I really hate that. But I do want everybody to understand that it is a game that we're playing with the quarantine and the Arkansas Department of Health and our governor, and understand the impacts of not having kids at school. I've personally seen it with my wife working in the district and having to do home visits over Christmas and Thanksgiving, and kids not having food. So I don't like any of what's going on, but we got to manage through it. I don't support a mask mandate, but I support us having school. So that's my personal feelings. So I unchecked them and I checked them back at the door. So I support us keeping kids in school. That's where I'm at.
I guess I'm a little bit hung up on, well, let me back it up. I am 100% right where Kevin is with 100% against any kind of mandates, any kind of me telling you that you have to do anything. But I also know the importance of trying to keep kids in school. But on the flip side of that, the quarantine rules were put in place to send kids home that were exposed to COVID. By letting kids stay in school that were exposed because they had a mask on, is that beneficial to have a kid that could potentially have been exposed to COVID at school? Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, we're letting people not quarantine because they've been vaccinated, but yet everybody knows that you can still get COVID and give COVID when you've been vaccinated. We're letting people not have to quarantine because they have a mask on, and we know that you can still get COVID and still give COVID with a mask on. So I'm just trying to make the most sense out of something that doesn't make any sense to me. And I just, it's hard. I mean, it is hard. Like this, it is hard because I don't want to sit here and say while this is what I believe, that it should be a parent's choice, and if you want to send your kid to school in a mask, then do it. And I feel like if your kid's exposed to COVID and they have a mask on, then don't let them quarantine, which is hopefully what will happen at some point because of Dr. Cleveland's letter. Obviously, is my opinion or my vote that we go ahead and jump to that now and see if we get an answer from the governor in the next week or two. And I don't want to play experiment with anybody's kids as far as let's make it parent choice for the next 30 days and see if our numbers were different than the first 30 days. But I have a hard time telling anybody what they have to do. I don't like the government telling me what to do, and I don't. Anyways, and I don't know that if the numbers were just, if kids were getting COVID left and right at school in our 8th through 12th grades, if they were getting COVID and getting sick, and the numbers in K7 were way lower because they were masked, then it's a no-brainer to me. But that's just not the case. Again, I go back to is letting kids be kids at school more important than taking the chance on a certain number of them having to go home for 7 days. If anybody knows the answer to that, I'm all ears. But
So the data that we saw I didn't see anything, I might have missed something, but I didn't see anything that it's contributing to a higher positivity rate between the K through 7, which is our mask wearers, and then 8 through K. The thing I did see was the quarantining piece. They're twice as much. Personal close contacts, which quarantine just for being a close contact, was twice as much 8 through K than, or 8 through 12 than 8 through 7. So we're back to the same thing.
Except for
It's
the
the quarantine.
differences on that have to do somewhat with the 1 class versus 8 classes.
Yeah, then that's why I asked Andrew if she thought that was one thing.
Discussing.
I mean, I really want to do parents' choice, but I don't know how we get there.
Do we continue discussion, or does someone have a motion, or?
We have, Dr. Cleveland, we have no timeline at all, right, on hearing from Dr. Romero?
Dr. Romero told me that his epidemiologist is out this week, but he will be getting a hold of us at the end of the week to glean our data. And hopefully we'll be able to have discussions the following week. Now, I can't speak for Dr. Romero at all. I can tell you he's been very supportive and listening. And in fact, he called me, so I didn't call him. So that was a positive outcome. And I'm very appreciative of the governor for listening. I texted him one night. He called me the next morning, and he was wonderful to talk to. And certainly supportive of the, at least understanding. He was perplexed about how our data, having large quarantine, small positivity rate, he wanted to study that, and the Department of Health reached out to us to do that. So that tells me a lot. I appreciate that.
So who compiled this other sheet?
Someone's been superintendent.
Yeah,
So in there you see the non-mask versus the mask.
And that's a friend of mine. He gathered some data from some other districts and shared with it. It's a fellow superintendent. We all share. A lot of us superintendents work together to try to understand what's going on in each other's districts, see if we can learn from one another. And he compiled that data and shared it with me, just as a point of reference. It's all public information. I believe it's on their websites.
Questions?
Goes back to the same numbers. Quarantine numbers are up.
Nick? Just trying to figure out if we are continuing discussion or.
I think everybody kind of has their thought, don't they? Mine,
They do, then I need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we let the thing expire.
I have a motion from Mr. Owenby, a second from Mr. Emerson to allow the mandate to expire. Before I ask for a vote, is there any last?
So are we gonna ignore the quarantine rules and?
Can't ignore the
Can't ignore the
quarantine.
quarantine rules.
I think that's where the parent's choice comes in. If they want to take less of a chance that their child is going to be quarantined, then they can choose to let their child go.
The problem on that is.
We're okay with higher numbers? Kids out of seats? I mean, that's what we've been talking about, and then all of a sudden, you have a motion. Stop going that route. That was our conversation last time, too, about, quarantine being the important part.
Well, I think we have to follow the current quarantine rules. We have to. I mean, like.
Well, then it's,
Yeah.
there is a vote on the table then, and then we'll.
There's the potential that it will increase, and more than likely, it'll increase the quarantine numbers.
Significantly.
So
But it gives, I mean, we're not taking anybody's.
So we burden a big responsibility here regardless of what decision we arrive. as a board. We also have the flexibility to come back tomorrow if we want to and say, hey, that wasn't the right thing to do. So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think, let's just vote, see how it votes.
Mr. Walton mentioned the truth, having the truth in the room. And the data shows that our percentages are lower than some of them around us that do have masks, and it's much lower than those around us that are unmasked. The unmasked data shows quite a bit percentage higher than what we do, and we could wind up getting into that. But we also know that we are over quarantining. We already are sending students home. And that with the Arkansas Department of Health sent us a letter making sure we know where they stand and that we can't go against anything that they say, showing us their authority. That's the truth. It is what it is. And like Mr. Army said, we can come back in 48 hours and change it if we feel like we're wrong.
Or it doesn't go, or we make a different decision.
There's a motion on the table to allow the mandate to expire. A motion by Mr. Emerson, a second by, motion by Mr. Owenby, a second by Mr. Emerson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That's going to be on the news.
No, I have, I'm sorry, SEA.
Hello. Hi, I'm Madeline Lomax. I teach ceramics at the School of Innovation, and I am the president of the Springdale Education Association. What a decision you guys just had to make, and everything that you've had to sit through and listen to. I wrote down a good amount of stuff to tell you guys, but I think the most important things to say are that the safety and health of our students and educators will still be number one. When you guys say that students will have to quarantine if they don't wear a mask, I know that I'll go into my classroom tomorrow and I'll say, hey guys, you don't have to wear a mask. It's not mandated, but know that if you do have a mask on, it's going to keep you from going into quarantine for 2 weeks if you're a possible close contact. Those kids are going to choose to wear a mask. I've seen it over the last month. I've seen high school kids who are not mandated to wear a mask, putting them on in class every day, following the teacher's example, and I've seen a few of them not wearing them, but in the school, no one has been hateful. None of the students have been disrespectful about it to me or to my colleagues. And so I am trusting and hoping that we don't see a huge amount of quarantines due to the decision, and that we really stay safe and stay healthy within the schools. One of our big concerns in SEA is our bus drivers. So we've been talking about the shortage and seeing what we can do to encourage teachers to get their CDL license and to step up to help out wherever possible. Gosh, the last 2 years have been really tough. It's been a tough time to be an educator. It's been a tough time to work within the district, but even though we've been busy, I think it's important to take a moment to express gratitude for how far we've come and to recognize that the challenges that we go through only help us grow. That from every tough decision that we make, there is a huge lesson to be learned, and that we are all stronger and smarter because we've persevered through this together. I'm very thankful for everything that you guys have done for our students, our educators, and our community. Despite the adversity, we stand in support of public education with our Springdale family. And I want to leave you guys with a song recommendation. I learned today there was research on a song you could listen to relieve some stress. Don't we all need that right now? So the song Weightless by Marconi Union is the most stress-relieving song of all time, and I would recommend everyone go home and listen to that song and take a deep breath so that we can move on and move forward. Thank you for your time.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.